I'm fading in. Hi, and welcome to Something to Talk About. I'm Linda McNamee, and as you saw from our introduction, for the next hour, we are going to be learning about performing arts education. Why are performing arts, or why is performing arts? I'll ask you that later. Why is it important, and why should we teach them in school? But before I begin, I would like to invite you to email me at talk@bcattv.org if you have a question or a suggestion for a future topic. I'm here to listen and I'm open to suggestion. I would also like to thank the crew for this evening. Chris Flaherty is one of the staff members here, and he makes sure everything is up and running smoothly so us volunteers can come in and out and make magic happen. Well, not really magic, but make the show happen. Speaking of volunteers, I would like to thank this evening's volunteers, Christina Nikitas, Noel Donahue, and Gwyneth McNamee, for giving up their Wednesday evening to come help with the show. Evan McNamee and Evan Peckham are unable to attend because they are at camp in southern Rhode Island right now, so I hope they're having fun. And because of that, there is no daddy date night, so my husband Paul gets the night off, so hopefully you are enjoying your evening. Housekeeping aside, I would like to now introduce you to my wonderful guest, whom you may seen around, John Middleton-Cox, who is the Performing Arts Director for Burlington Public Schools, specifically the music department, but it's all of schools, right?
That's right, yes, thank you. Thank you for having me back again.
Well,
yes.
Thank you for coming in the middle of your, what should be, vacation. But do you really get the summer off?
I do get some time off, yes. We do run a 3-week theater program, which I'm going to talk about, which is called BEST, Burlington Educational Summer Theater. And we're culminating in our performance this weekend.
Yay! Which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Yep, and a few extra days, but yes,
Okay.
I do have some time off in the summer.
Because I do want to find out about that. Like, is it part of the, no, I'll hold my questions until later. But yes, you were on the show before. I think it was 2017, maybe?
Yeah.
And I think a lot has changed. A lot has stayed the same, as we mentioned earlier before we started recording. But can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, what made you interested in pursuing a career in both education and performing arts, and how you kind of matched the two, and what brought you to Burlington?
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in a small town in northern New York. My father was a professor at Plattsburgh State.
Okay.
So if you know Plattsburgh, New York, it's up in that area, not far from Canada. My mother's from Montreal, so it worked out.
Okay.
And
By default, did you have to learn how to speak French?
I tried.
Funny, I did too.
Yeah, I tried. That was hard, but that's a whole nother show we could do about that. But my mother has the musical gene that I inherited. Her father was a church organist in Montreal, and he also oversaw the music in the department in the Catholic schools in Montreal. And her mother was an opera singer. So
Oh, wow.
unfortunately, they died fairly young, and I never got to meet them. But I feel like I've inherited, their
Genetics
genes.
is a marvelous thing.
Yeah. My father couldn't match pitches, which was an interesting side. He had a rich, deep voice, but he was a pitch challenge.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that was an interesting. Yeah, we would experiment sometimes. But,
Like that we experimented.
mm-hmm.
So how'd you migrate east to Burlington?
Yeah, so I went to undergraduate in Potsdam, New York, at the state school. There's a Crane School of Music attached to that, which is a reputable music education school. And my first job out of college was actually in New York, in Westchester County, New York, at a middle school. And then I was looking for another job, and I wanted to try the high school.
Okay.
I got a couple of different job offers. One was actually in Manhattan at a magnet school, and it was a magnet school for technology. They wanted to start a music elective,
All right.
and they had a band.
Science and math are...
Yes, there's a lot of connections there.
And music.
Absolutely.
I don't know why I said math. Science and music or...
Mm-hmm. The other job offer I got was in Haverhill,
Okay.
And you can guess which one where I landed. So at the time, I had some friends in Boston, and
Okay.
I had a voice teacher who was teaching at the Boston Conservatory that I wanted to continue to study with. So I felt like the Boston area would be a better place for me at that time.
Okay.
So yeah, I taught for 4 years at Haverhill, the Whittier Vocational Technical High School.
Ooh, okay.
And again, it was a music elective they wanted to start, and they started performing arts and music.
Okay, because I was curious how music transitioned into a more global.
Right. So it was really kind of fun. The students obviously was an elective, so there wasn't no one was like majoring in it or going to college for music or anything. So it wasn't a high pressure situation, but they were very supportive. And they gave me whatever equipment I needed, new piano lab, new.
Yeah, I need a new baby grand piano.
Well, actually, they had a baby grand at the
Oh,
They had a stage, but nobody was using it. So it was nice to be able to start a chorus from scratch. We started a musical. We started with just a musical review the first year.
Okay.
Then we built it up to do a full-length musical at the tech school. And what was really fun about that is I got to use the different shops at the school to help put things together.
Okay, like building sets.
Yeah. So, for instance, one year we did scenes from Greece. We had the auto body shop paint some wooden things to make it look like a car with actual auto paint.
Oh, cool! I thought maybe you brought the actual car in.
No, we weren't quite that advanced yet, but
the doors weren't big enough.
Yeah. But I remember one year I think I used every single shop. We used the cosmetology shop would do the hair and makeup, of course. That's an easy one. Fashion would help with the costumes. I had even the HVAC shop. They helped build a fountain there's a scene in Guys and Dolls where they go to Havana, Cuba.
Oh,
We even had a little bubble water, actual working fountain with metal that they had built.
Cool.
Even the masonry shop, we had borrowed cinder blocks from them to help.
I was going to say culinary, they just bring you snacks.
Oh, yes, the reception, the concessions.
After the cast party.
Yep, so that was really cool.
Oh, yeah, concessions, yeah.
Yep, yep. That was a really cool place. And they have a whole marketing shop. So,
oh, really? Okay.
Marketing the musical. They had printing shops. So we'd do the playbills,
that would
the posters.
Be handy.
I mean, it was on and on. But after 4 years there, I felt like I was kind of hitting the ceiling, and I was looking for something else where else I could grow.
Okay.
And then I got a job at Burlington High School as the high school choral director.
Okay.
And I was in that job for 13 years. So I teaching the chorus here. And then I was here for 4 years, and the music coordinator at that time left for a different district.
Okay.
And there was a vacancy, so I threw my hat in the ring.
What do you got to lose?
But I was able to still teach and be the department head.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that was a department head for K to 12. So that would have been in 2004. I started in Burlington in 2000. 2004 became the department head.
Okay.
And and then.
So just one department head for all the elementary schools?
It was really hard. I really couldn't do what needed to be done at the high school course, and teaching musical theater course and the 2 different courses.
Yeah, trying to balance
and overseeing 6 different schools with 15 music teachers. I always felt like I couldn't
somebody was being left out.
Right. So thanks to the support with Dr. Conti and the school committee, we were able to create the position of a performing arts director. So I don't teach anymore. I'm not in the classroom.
Okay.
I have someone full-time dedicated to the students so that they get what they need. They get the attention they need. And then I have more time now to travel to the different schools and oversee the teachers and support them.
Okay.
So.
And now it's not just music, it's
performing arts.
Performing
right.
arts.
So.
Which is music and theater and.
Yeah, there's a lot of different performing arts.
Yeah. What else do we have? I'm only getting into this now, like we mentioned before.
It's not too late.
My kids are finally getting into, high school now.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, any performing thing is a performing art. So sometimes you may have a visual artist doing a motion or movement. Generally performing is more where it's timed, whereas visual art is more stagnant or stationary. It isn't something that moves in time, but But yeah, the performing arts, can include circus arts. It could include pageantry arts with like marching band,
That's
color
what we
guard.
need. Circus arts. Learn how to do a trapeze. No, okay.
So
Okay, I digress.
no, it's a good question.
But yeah,
though.
marching and would like color
Color
guard.
guard, yep, all of that, absolutely, yep.
Now, the high school band also has dancers. Is that part of color guard? Is that part of band? Is that part of its own entity in?
Yeah, so that's evolved over the years. Matt Lovell was the band director here for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And he had their color guard, but then he also had, well, when he first started, it was called the twirlers. So they had the baton twirlers were part of the show. And then it sort of evolved into what they call the dance squad, which is not typical in marching band circuits.
Yeah, I didn't think so until, my kid's babysitter. No, it's been a while because my kids don't need a babysitter anymore, but the babysitter was in the band.
Now they're babysitting, yes.
Yeah.
But so there was separate. The color guard would do the flags and twirling and have different uniforms, and then the dance squad was dancers, and they were like competitive trained dancers.
Okay.
And then after he retired, we had our replacement, Sean Buxbaum, came in, and he wanted to kind of bring it together to be more of a typical marching band that could compete with other bands. So they didn't have a dance squad. Wasn't part of the circuit. They didn't have a judge. They didn't have a criteria for judging. Strictly dancers. It was what they call visual art. So it's more of an all-encompassing. So you'll see the color guard students twirling, but also dancing. So with flags, or sometimes without flags. So, and they also do dance with different rifles, all different kinds of equipment. So swords, even. So they're all props, of course.
Well, yeah, they're wrapped in tape. They're not sharp
right.
anymore. No. And they're wooden rifles.
So
I toyed around with that back in like middle school and high school in ancient times when I was young enough. My older sister, we were all in marching band, my brother, my sister, and I, and concert band. But she also ended up getting involved in, I think, what is now Winter Guard. But at least as far as Western Massachusetts was concerned, it was kind of a new thing that they were just bringing in. But, early 1980s, I don't know, that could be, around for a lot longer in other areas of the country. Yeah,
so the students who do color guard, when it came time for the winter, you can't really go outside and marching, and so they created Winter Guard. So it's indoors. You need a big space, usually a gymnasium or something where you can twirl and throw
the flags up in the air
and hopefully catch them.
Knock out a light fixture.
Right. So that and now there's winter percussion. So that's
didn't know that.
It's created like a whole year-round pageantry arts, they call it.
Oh.
So in fact, we have a competitive Winter Guard, and we've even hosted the Anesba Winter Guard competition here before. So
cool.
Yeah.
And people can like overlap and.
Oh, absolutely. In fact,
it's like more sports-like now.
It really is more competitive, more physical demands. In fact, a lot of times in the winter, you might find that a wind player might decide, I've always wanted to try, twirling the rifles, or vice, or you may say, well, I've always wanted to try playing the percussion. So, winter percussion, Winter Guard gives them that opportunity to kind of diversify.
Now, does the winter percussion group work with Winter Guard? Or are those like two totally separate entities?
They're actually two totally separate entities. Now, it's the same circuit that they fall under, the NESBA, New England School Marching Band Association. They're totally separate. So the Winter Guard, actually, a big portion of their show is the floor.
Okay.
They have to, a lot of these competitive groups will get a big, huge floor. They unfold, and it's painted. And they can have designs and colors. It matches their costumes, and it's whole part of the theme. So
wow. Yeah. Okay, that's intense.
It also protects the wooden floor in case of drops.
No, they never drop.
Which nope.
So I'm like looking back over here. So we talked a little bit about the high school and what performing arts encompasses, mostly at the high school level, but it's slowly making its way into the elementary schools. Is it still third grade in Burlington that instrumental music starts, or what are the plans?
So yes and no.
Okay.
Third grade, the students have the opportunity to
Okay,
sign
I'm
up.
going pre-COVID now.
Yeah,
so,
no,
you know,
and
I'm sure a
post-COVID,
lot has changed in the past.
Yes, and
years.
we've been able to bring a lot back. So,
Okay. So how
third
is it now?
grade, third grade students have the option to sign up to take violin lessons,
Okay.
and so they get a half-hour lesson that get pulled out of either music or gym, or sometimes it's recess, sometimes it's a part of an art class or whatever. It rotates, so they don't miss the same class every week. We try to minimize any impact, but they get a 30-minute lesson, and then they get a 30-minute ensemble rehearsal, and usually that's during recess.
Okay.
And that's at all 4 elementary schools.
Okay.
In 4th grade, they have the opportunity to continue on a stringed instrument. They can move to viola, cello, even upright. They have the little short upright basses.
Wow.
Quarter size,
half
bass.
size. Wow.
Yep. Or they can sign up to take a band instrument: flute, clarinet, trumpet, trombone, saxophone.
You know, I'm kind of surprised because in my, limited knowledge base, violin seems to be a really hard instrument to learn. So I was kind of surprised that that's the first instrument that these kids are exposed to learning, as well as when they do get introduced to the band instruments. Trombone seems kind of hard too because it's not exact.
Yeah, so one rationale could be that they need an extra year if they're going to learn violin.
Okay.
Start them younger until they can sound good. But there's 4 strings that are based on the open fifths. So to play a song, if you're doing pizzicato, it's not that hard to pluck and just move your fingers 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
The bow is a whole nother art form. You know, how to hold the bow, how much tension, how much weight.
How not to poke the person next to you.
Oh, that's when the bows become swords. That's a whole nother, just like the color guard. Yes, but no, there is definitely. It is tricky. It's not easy, but not easy to sound good.
Well, that's why they start
but
young.
you can make a sound right away.
Exactly.
With it. Yep. And like the ukulele has 4 strings, it's a little easier to put your fingers. It doesn't hurt.
Okay.
It's not like steel strings with frets. It's very it's
guitars
soft.
really give your fingers a workout.
And the violins and string instruments are one of the few instruments that come in different sizes.
Okay.
So you can have a half-size, quarter-size instrument for a little 3rd grader, and then when they grow, bigger, they move up so they get resized.
They grow, their instrument grows.
Exactly, it grows with them. Yeah.
Cool. You mentioned ukulele. I'm sorry, I'm like bouncing all over the place.
Sure.
A long time ago, several years ago, ukulele was an option, I believe, well, in the middle school. Was it part of the general music class?
Yes.
Is that still an option for them?
It is, yep.
I just don't know any middle schoolers that are learning how to play
Yeah, we
ukulele,
actually have expanded even to elementary schools.
Cool.
Over the years, different elementary school teachers, some through writing grants, we've been able to procure a classroom set of ukuleles for all 4 elementary schools now.
Wow.
So the students have the opportunity, usually 4th grade, they'll start.
Okay, because 3rd grade traditionally had been a recorder.
It still is, yes. Yep, we're back, yep.
And I love the family as, the Facebook groups going, oh no, my kid came home with a recorder, please help me now.
I'm not familiar with those Facebook groups.
It's okay. No, I was actually, really surprised how good my kids were. And, they get the little, the teachers do
The
little
karate
yarn.
belt, yes.
Yeah, that was really fun.
I had the opportunity to teach recorder in 3rd grade at Pine Glen for a year.
Okay.
And it was really amazing to see some of the kids who don't normally get excited about music were the competitive, sporty type kids, We're so into the recorder karate, and they couldn't wait to test for the
It
next
actually
belt.
has a name? Okay, I didn't know it had a name.
Recorder karate is a curriculum.
Cool.
Yep. And we pick songs that will be for the white belt, yellow belt, all the way up to black belt.
Okay.
And we try to, between the 4 schools, make sure we have the same song for the same belt test.
That was going to be my next question is how are the...
Yeah, the recorder is a great instrument for beginning wind instruments.
Yeah,
so
well, the fingering's very similar if you transfer to like flute or clarinet or saxophone.
Exactly, yep. And learning to control your wind.
Oh, yep.
And now, unlike, some of the other instruments, the recorder, you need very little air pressure. If you blow too hard, it gets really high and squeaky, which is probably what some Facebook posts were about.
Yeah.
But yes, to be able to play it gently and softly, that's where the skill comes in.
It's
control.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's very controlled.
Yep.
And I remember way back when I was, taking flute lessons, it's like you can just make a noise and play the notes, or you can make music and it pulling the emotion in and, just...
Exactly. Yeah. It's the flute is one of the hardest instruments to get a proper sound out of because you're splitting the air. You're not blowing into the hole. You're blowing across the hole like you would do with a bottle.
Right.
And so to get your lips and the embouchure just right to make that proper sound is tricky.
Yeah.
And it can
and
take
then
some
keep
time.
it there because like if the instrument moves the slightest bit, you might go flat or sharp and you got to like match with everybody else.
And that's where listening comes in. Very important.
We're talking about all the different I want to talk about the all-town performances that we're finally able to come back this year. So there's an all-town strings, an all-town band, and an all-town chorus.
Right. Yes. It was one of the saddest days when I got the call
I know.
that we had to cancel.
And it was like really close
It
too
was
because
really
it
close.
was
It was
like
March.
the end of March.
Yes, we were ready to go.
Only 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, and we brainstormed a little bit, like, well, could we do a virtual or could we do, but at that time it was so, we didn't know.
Nobody knew.
No. So we had to cut and cancel that for the, for obvious safety reasons. Then the next year we did do a virtual all-town band, chorus, and strings. Of course, it wasn't the same at all, but it was something that we could hold on to. It was something to work for, something to show off. And but finally, this past year, we were able to bring back all 3 concerts. And
I love it.
yeah, it's. I mean, you fill a room full of proud parents and hundreds of musicians gathered together and they're not just playing and performing, they're also an audience member. They're listening and watching and learning and hopefully getting inspired to continue with their instrument and see, when I listen to the high school kids, I could be that good if I stick with it. Yeah, exactly.
No pun intended, but how do you orchestrate all the different, where to put everybody, how to choose the songs? And there's always, like, I remember the band always does at the end the Ode to Joy, like, build up. How do you plan all of that and make all the pieces work and have all the teachers communicate with each other and the kids actually pay attention to the directors? And
yeah, it starts in August when we have our professional development days and we get together as a staff and we do breakout into different groups and learning from last year what went well and what could be improved on. The number one thing is we have to have a venue, a space.
Yeah.
Now, so I'm not sure if you got to experience all 3 this year, but...
Not all 3, but we did band and chorus, and I remember one was in the middle school and one was in the high school.
Yes.
There was a little bit of spatial
that is
frustration.
A challenge. Absolutely. So the wooden gym at the high school is the biggest indoor venue that we have. You can fit probably about 1,500 people, including the floor.
How many can fit in the high school auditorium?
the auditorium is 800
Okay.
in the seats, and then if you pack it right, you could put another 100 performers on the stage. And that's where we used to have the All-Town String concert.
Okay.
Because the All-Town String started, was just 3rd grade, then 4th, and built up over the years.
I did go to one
Yeah.
there.
So, now that we have a full-blown middle school and now high school string orchestra that's growing and growing, we
Doesn't
kind
fit.
of reached our capacity. So we had to look for a different space. This year we went to the middle school gymnasium for All-Town Strings, and it was still kind of tight, but we made it work. And I remember doing the math. There were 250 string players on the floor, and they all have 4 strings. So we had to tune 1,000 strings that night.
Oh.
Tuning was like act 1 of the performance. It was quite an endeavor. Now, luckily, the 3rd graders really just used 1 string, so that helped.
Okay, well that helps.
And we had a couple of parent volunteers who were string players who would help, but that was, and the high school kids know how to tune by then, and they can help the others. So it was quite a
So the
challenge.
concert's at 7. Show up at 4, and that might give us enough time.
Oh yeah, we're setting up the chairs and the sound system, the pianos and the keyboards. There's a lot of logistics. The custodians do an amazing job.
They do.
And Jeff Marsh, who drives the truck for the district, he spends a whole day, driving, getting music stands from this school and bringing them over here, and the percussion and piano, keyboards, and then returning them at the end of the night. Don't forget.
Yeah.
So it's a late night for him and the other custodians. So that one worked out pretty well. There it was a little cozy, but it worked out. The high school wooden gym is a tough venue to get, because in that time of year there's the basketball and all the other sports, and there's playoffs, and sometimes you might have a playoff game if your team wins. So it's really hard.
But you don't know until 3 days before.
It's so frustrating, and I worked a lot with Mr. Hart, from the athletic director, and the calendar, and trying to find some dates that could work. And we went back and forth. He suggested Sundays, because there's not a lot of games on Sundays unless there's a playoff or a special tournament or Pop Warner. I mean, there's always something.
Unless.
But, so we're looking
Always
into
exceptions.
that. But for the high school band, all-town band concert, we were able to do it at the high school.
Okay.
And so we were back home in our space with everybody. And
Life is good.
Yes. The all-town chorus one, we did run into some issues because of the capacity.
Okay.
We went to the middle school, but it's tricky with the elementary. There's so many. Everybody in 4th and 5th grade is in a chorus automatically.
Right.
As part of their general music curriculum. So that's a lot of kids that we invite.
That is.
We don't know if they're going to come, and their parents. Right. So we actually exceeded capacity there, and we had people in the hallways, standing room only, and it really wasn't. It was not ideal at all.
It was not fun.
So, no.
For anybody.
We have a new plan we're working on this year to try an after-school all-town chorus club.
Ooh, okay.
And Francis Wyman last year, they had an after-school chorus, and it goes through the principal's office. They manage the
That's
parents.
in addition to the general music class.
It's totally separate,
okay.
and students can sign up. And there's a fee they pay, and there's a lot of different clubs at the elementary schools now. But this was one of them, and a music teacher would be there and teach the songs, and sometimes they have 2 teachers helping out, and they get paid for the tuition, and it works out. Then they perform at the concert. So that's an idea we've been talking about with the music teachers, and I need to.
Wait, did that happen at the All-Town Chorus?
No, it hasn't happened.
Okay,
yet.
I'm like, wait.
No, this is still in the works.
Okay.
It's not. Don't publish anything yet, but this is something we're working on in the future.
Okay.
That maybe this year we can manage, but have a better sense of who's signing up, who's committed to come, and what will be better prepared.
Got
for
it.
Yeah.
My brain is on vacation. I thought you said there already was one at Francis Wyman.
No, there is an after-school chorus at Francis Wyman.
But incorporating them into
So
the concert
that's sort of
to be determined.
That's sort of the idea, is that we could do that at all 4 schools, have an after-school chorus that could come together and perform.
Cool.
That would be special.
That would be neat.
Mm-hmm.
With the after-school programs in mind,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and definitely correct me if my memory is failing, there was an after-school percussion group at the high school?
Yep, you may be referring to the winter percussion group.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So that's a
Okay.
club that exists in the winter, and kids come
But
from
it's
the high
not
school.
part of the regular school curriculum.
Nope, it's
Okay.
extracurricular. Right.
And I was also really impressed in the middle school. There's the house band.
Yeah, the house band is started with Mr. Mullen. He's the chorus teacher at
Okay.
the middle school, and he actually did it in the district before he came to Burlington. He had this thing, and he remember when he first was hired here, and he was telling me about it. I was like, "You want to do what?" That's not
Really?
typical, but so for a chorus to
Are ya
accompany them,
Okay.
he would pull together a kid who maybe played a little bass guitar, a little acoustic or electric guitar, a piano, drums, and he put together kind of a rock band, a house band, if you will, that could play different styles and different genres and be able to enhance the music.
And that's like an
experience.
after-school thing.
Sometimes it hasn't been after school. I think
Okay.
they meet during when they can. It's been
Okay.
tricky to find times to meet, and
Okay.
especially with the new schedule at the middle school.
They were really good.
Yeah, that's right.
And I also don't remember, again, I'm dating myself, piano being part of the school performing music performing groups.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some really talented pianists in town.
There are. So at the middle school, we purchased a piano keyboard lab that has headphones and headsets,
Okay.
and they're roll-in keyboards, and they have this really cool trick where you press a button, and one 88 key piano becomes two. So there's a middle C here and a middle C over there. So two students can share a piano. That way, otherwise you wouldn't have the space for
Right.
25 pianos. So this way we can put like 14
Okay.
and make them side by side, and they can listen just to themselves. Each piano has two headphones, so they can isolate. I'm just listening to
So
myself.
they're just listening to their half of the
Yep,
piano?
exactly. Or the
That is so
teacher has a
cool.
control station, so he
Okay.
can mute them all if he needs to say something.
Okay.
He can solo different. I need to hear Tommy. Let me hear you do the page
wow.
5. All right. He can. Everyone listen to me now. You can't
That
hear
is
anything but me now.
cool.
And it's got all those cool buttons and everything. Yeah. So that's a really great thing. We also have what we call iRigs, which are piano keyboards that will plug into iPads.
Ooh.
So all of
Okay.
the sounds come from the iPad. So you can put in headphones to the iPad or Bluetooth
Okay.
earpods, and you can play.
But it's like a piano keyboard as
Yep.
opposed to like an alphabetical keyboard.
Right. No, it's a piano keyboard, and
That's cool.
it doesn't have anything inside it. There's no speakers. There's
Okay.
not a lot going on with the keyboard itself. It's just plugs into GarageBand or other
okay.
apps on the iPad, so you can play as well there. So that's at the middle school, and then the high school we don't offer piano classes, but a lot of students, I can't take the credit, a lot of them take private lessons outside of school, and then whether that's at the Real School of Music or there's private studios in town. But we are lucky that we're able to use their skills and harness them, and they can play in the jazz band at the high school, or sometimes they accompany the chorus. And also now in the orchestra, the high school we have a pianist in the orchestra, and at the middle school there's a student who plays the piano at the orchestra too. Yeah.
Mentioning iPads, I should not have been surprised, but it was very interesting to me that all of the music is now on the students' iPads, that they don't have sheet music. They just
Right.
plop their iPad up on a music stand. How long has that been going, and do you have like licenses or rights to, you just can't get a sheet of sheet music and make 100 copies of it?
Right, exactly. So when did it start? I first started I remember when Patrick Larkin had brought iPads to Burlington.
Okay.
Everybody got one, and then I remember seeing a show, it was on NPR. They have They had a show, and I went to see a live performance at Jordan Hall, and they were doing the taping, and they would bring up students to play, a solo, but then the host would play the piano, and he had an iPad. He didn't turn the pages with his finger; he turned it with a pedal. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on
Oh
here?
my
I need to learn more
Yeah.
about this. So
Wow.
so I was able to purchase Bluetooth pedals to turn the
Cool.
pages. And there's a number of different apps that you can download. I use one called PIA Score, PIA Score, but
Okay.
it's free. And there's many different apps. You basically uploads your PDFs from your Google Drive, and it shows up, and then you can turn the page with your pedal. And now professional musicians are using it, and more college students are using them. We went to see UMass Amherst. We went on a tour this year with the high school, and you go to see a rehearsal, and I'd say maybe almost half of the students had an iPad.
Wow.
Usually they get the big pro ones because this is their music
Well,
majors, and this
yeah.
is going to be their career, and and you can write on it with a stylus to take notes.
Oh, cool.
A lot of them had the pedals. Rather than carrying around all of that music. So to answer your second question about the rights, so you still need to purchase the music because a lot of the composers, the publishers, they make their money when you actually purchase
Right.
the music. But what you're allowed to do is to have a PDF, save a PDF to your personal library.
Okay.
So we still do that. Like for instance, at the high school chorus, Mrs. Weller says, I want to perform this piece at the concert. Okay, I've got, 40 students, so we purchased 40 copies of the music, but then she scans in one, and now it can be shared on everyone's iPad, so they're still paying that. Now, a lot of times they have now digital downloads,
Okay.
so the publishers can, and the composers can still get their money, and we're still,
Right.
but we don't actually have to have hard copies sitting on a shelf collecting dust either.
Right.
So you're able, the
And in like
publishing
5 years,
yeah.
if you decide that you want to use that piece again.
Right, we purchased
You've already,
the rights come with that purchase. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I'm trying to think of what else I want to talk about before we go into best.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about best.
All right.
Now that is Burlington Educational Summer Theater.
Correct.
So it's Burlington students. Is that all grades, or does it depend on the performance, on how many students of each level you need, and is it always a musical, or? Talk to me.
Yeah, we've been doing best. We did miss 1 year during the pandemic, but I think it was 2009 we started best.
Okay.
Our first show was Annie, and originally we were going to do Annie Jr. with the younger kids, and then we were going to do a high school production of Bye Bye Birdie. But only 10 high school students showed up and were willing to be part of the summer because a lot of the kids in the high school get summer jobs. So.
Okay,
But
I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yep,
what is the difference between Annie and Annie Jr.?
Okay, how much time do we have, by the way?
We got about 20 minutes.
Okay, all right. So a lot of the full-length musical.
But like right now,
Yep.
you guys are preparing to do Seussical Jr.
Yes, right. So the publishing companies, the authors, have worked to create junior productions of their full-length musicals. And what that does is takes maybe a musical that's 2 hours, 2.5 hours in length, and with a lot of challenging ranges that were written for professional singers on Broadway, and it makes it more approachable. Most of the junior shows are you can only use it for students up until they're 18 years old.
Okay.
Then they have what they call kids versions now too. That's a new thing coming out.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember that.
So, like for instance, The Lion King. There's the Broadway production, and there's
Which is totally amazing.
yeah, and then there's the Broadway Junior, which we performed here a few years ago.
Yeah.
So it's about 45 minutes to an hour in length. Sometimes there's an intermission, sometimes there isn't. And they adjust some of the keys, the vocal ranges, so they're more approachable for the younger students, and they reduce the amount of music you have to learn. And then they actually have a kids version, so it can only be done with elementary, and it's only about 30 minutes long.
Okay.
So it's even more easier and approachable, and that's something
Okay.
that's really cool.
So there's the standard, the abridged, then the Cliff Note version.
Right.
Okay. So continue. So 2009, you
so
started with Annie.
we were going to do Annie Junior and Bye Bye Birdie, but we didn't have enough high school students, but we had really good, talented high school students, and we thought, wait a minute, what about putting them together and doing the full version of Annie and having the high school kids be the adults, Daddy Warbucks and Grace and Rooster and Lily, and then having all the younger students become the orphans and the servants who work in Warbucks Mansion. So that's what we did, and that kind of got us off the ground in a nice way the first year. And after that, we did the second year we did Alice in Wonderland Junior, and the high school students. I didn't even know Alice in Wonderland musical. Oh yeah, that's Disney. And then the high school students did A Little Shop of Horrors. Okay. And again, we only had about 10 kids. And then after that, we decided let's have the high school kids become the counselors to work with the younger kids. Oh. And we were bursting at the seams. Yeah. We had 60 or more kids sign up for auditions, and they're coming and paying tuition to be part of this 3-week program. And then it was actually Dr. Conti who suggested, maybe I wish there was something we could do so we don't have to cut the kids. You don't have to, eliminate or we're sorry we can't accept you, we're full. Yeah. So that's when we came up with the idea of doing the workshop program. So now we have a workshop program for the younger students, grades 1 to 5, and that's a 1 or 2 week performance. And they get to do a little mini 30-minute show. Okay. And then grades 5 to 8 can do the full junior production, a 3-week program. So we're able to accommodate a lot more students that way. This year we had all total, we had about 70 students sign up between the 2 different weeks of the workshop, and 65 sign up for the production of Seussical Junior. So wow. Yeah.
So best is only elementary and middle school.
Right. And the high school, we have a large group. We have about 15 counselors from the high school. Okay. And then the high school also has the stage crew club is running the production and doing the lighting and the sound and helping build the sets and painting and all of that. So yeah, there's about 20 high school students that are involved as well. So
cool. Mm-hmm. Now the high school does 2 productions a year?
Yep.
On their own.
Right.
Not
totally
part
separate.
Of best.
Yep. That's true.
Or wait, let's finish talking about best.
Okay. Yes. You don't want to miss out.
No, I know.
Seussical Junior is going to be coming up the weekend of Friday, July 28th, 7 p.m. and Saturday, July 29th at 2 p.m. So just 2 performances, the Friday and the Saturday.
Is that like standard for the best program?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And so the tickets, we still have tickets available.
Okay.
If people are interested, burlingtontheater.com is the website, so we can check that out. And the kids, it's going to be amazing. You should wait till you see the costumes, the lights, the sets.
Gosh,
it's really something.
How do you determine which performance you do for best?
Yeah, that's a good question. We always think, well, what are kids excited about? What are parents excited about? Well, sell tickets. And so therefore, with that in mind, we usually wind up with something familiar that people have heard of, they know of. And then we obviously try to rotate, not do the same shows very often. Now, Seussical, we actually did do before. We are repeating this one. Okay. And we repeated Little Mermaid. So we've been doing it so long now that we're like, okay, the cast of the ones who did Seussical Junior are now 22 years old. My son is one of them who did it.
Wow, okay.
And so I think it's safe we can start repeating that. But yeah, one thing I just want to throw out there is something that it's really special, is that because we've been doing it so long, some of the kids that were in those productions became counselors, and now they're even staff members.
Oh, wow.
And alumni, and they come back. So Jamie Cook is one of these people. Okay. When we did Annie, she was Miss Hannigan, and she was in high school, right? And now she's actually on staff as our choreographer, and she has 2 degrees in musical theater, so it's great to have her on staff. Yeah. Another bittersweet thing I want to mention is our set designer, who's been designing the sets for many years, actually passed away this year. His name was Peter Waldron, and yeah, so he was a treasure and very talented and creative and an artist, and would help build the sets and work with the students. But into his tribute, our alumni Kevin Parker, who and Billy Waisner, who was actually doing this professionally on the side, came back and they picked up where he had left us, and were able to put the sets together and design it and build it and paint it, and so it's wonderful to see that kind of coming back around again. That reward to have the alumni and come back and help the next generation.
Where are all the set pieces stored, or the costumes? Because like when you're done a show, a lot of times you can, pillage for other shows.
Yeah, that's a challenge. It's a big challenge. So a lot of the set pieces, some of them we're able to keep the basic flat. If it's it's a 4x8 flat, okay, we'll put that in. We have a flat closet. If it's a wagon, just something on wheels, 4x8 wagon, we have a lot of standard things that we keep from year to year. But some of it is, we just use it the once and then we're not going to use it again. We do have a big prop closet that, it's kind of like a giant pantry or a garage or a basement. It always needs organizing, and it can collect clutter. So we have to kind of, are we going to actually ever use this again, or maybe not? So costumes, same thing. We have a lot of costume racks, and we're storing in bins and things, and washing and hanging and drying, and it's a lot of work, a tremendous amount of work. Yeah.
So high school, or any more about Best?
No, I hope people can come and see it. It really is going to be amazing.
So this year's Seussical Junior.
Yep.
When do you decide what next year's Best show is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, there's no deadline or a strict timeline. We usually, I guess, at the cast party, we start looking around. Because one of the factors is you want to look at who your players, who's your talent is. An analogy: if you're looking at a football team, you want to pick the plays that they have the talent, the running back or the quarterback or the same kind of thing here. We don't pre-cast the show,
right?
But we want to know. If we did, let's say, if we did Annie, do we have a kid that could sing Annie?
Right.
Do we have somebody who has the pipes, the vocal range, and the power? So, so that's something we kind of look around the room.
But you need something by the time you start promoting it and try to recruit kids. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You not only do you have to promote the performances, you have to promote the auditions. You have to get the word out when the auditions are coming up. We usually do auditions in April, sometimes May. So, by March, we kind of got to have a show. We got to get the rights. We got to, get the word out. We got to get the word of mouth and get the,
And the rights, my brother is really involved in community theater. And before I moved to Burlington, I was a fan. Let's put it that way. And when they purchased the rights, it was the rights to perform in front of a live audience, but they wouldn't allow BCAT to come in and record it, because that was a different set of rights.
Yes. Yeah, you have limited rights. Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of contracts and a lot of legal language to navigate, and in general, they want a percentage of what your potential gate is going to be. So, to basic math is to say it's going to be something like 15% of your take that you could make at the door, or that you anticipate making at the door. So
you'd have to tell them in advance, we're having 2 performances, we're having 6 performances.
It's different for junior shows than it is for the full-length shows. But generally you might wind up paying $1,000 per performance for a full-length show. In addition to, you have to get the materials, and you have to rent. Usually you're renting those, and you have to return them because they're copyright and they're restricted. And then you pay for whatever other fees. Junior shows, they make it a little easier, a little bit more approachable. They say you can perform as many times as you want within a calendar year.
Okay.
And there's different companies that own the rights.
Okay.
Music Theater International is a big one. And then there's some other companies that have, so depending what show you want to do, you have to navigate all of the legalese and the contracts.
Got it.
Some shows are restricted, so if they're on Broadway or they're touring, you can't get the rights. I remember when we did Mary Poppins, I was waiting and checking and waiting. And like I knew this was coming out, and they kind of tease you. They're coming soon.
Coming soon.
And so as soon as they became available, I applied for the rights right away, and I was able to lock in, 2 weekends.
Okay.
I think it was March that year. And then North Shore Music Theater, they got the rights. And when you get the rights, 20-mile radius.
Oh, no.
Nobody can do the show within a 20-mile radius of that group. And so we had to do some finagling with them to make sure the dates. I think we actually moved the dates, if I remember correctly, to make it work. And then, of course, there's always Easter. Easter usually falls in March, April, so it was tricky to avoid that. It's a lot of things to consider. But now we actually do the high school musicals in May. And I think it's working out. The beginning of May, end of April. It's right after April vacation. We did it this year.
Okay.
And there's a lot of pluses and minuses, but I think more pluses than minuses. Kids had a whole week off before coming back to Tech Week. So, ready or not.
Well, you could make April vacation Tech Week. Then you'd probably annoy some families. So is it the springtime, the musical, and then a fall production that is not a musical?
Typically, we have done a fall drama, which is a straight play, non-musical. But recently, after the pandemic, we started doing a one-act competition, which happens in the end of January in Massachusetts. You're able to compete with other schools, METG, Massachusetts Educational Theater Guild, and the different districts compete. And then if you win that, you can go on to the next round, semifinals, and then finals. So that's something we've been doing. It's a lot different. It's a lot smaller sets because you have to travel and move your set onto the stage and set it up. And you have a limited amount of time, put everything together, and take it all down in like 1 hour. Like boom, boom, boom.
Right,
So,
but you're also limiting your cast because a lot of one-act plays don't have a cast of 30. It's like maybe 3.
Right. So, Cade Hill has been directing it for a number of years. Always considered that. What's a play that has 20-something? Because I know I'm going to get 20-something kids auditioning, and you don't want to turn them away. If you can use them, great. So, and he's been able to be creative and think about, maybe have a student director, or help somebody else, help out with the production that way. But also, in a lot of those, you can pick whatever show you want, or they have a list of different shows that qualified for the competition. And a lot of them are, the rights are free. They're no longer restricted. Like Shakespeare, for instance, all of his plays they're not under any copyright. So a lot of people make different versions and edit it down. So a 45-minute version of the Twelfth Night was one of our one of the shows, one of the plays they did.
I would not want to be editing that.
No.
That does not sound fun.
Yeah, exactly.
What are your goals for where would you like to see any of the performing arts in the next 5 years?
So I'm excited about growing and having a middle school musical.
Oh, cool.
There's actually some budget that was approved, a small, tiny budget that was approved before the pandemic. And we're trying to get that going. And also the elementary idea I mentioned to you earlier about an after-school thing. They did one at Francis Wyman. They had an after-school musical. I think it was, I forget, the name was it was sort of like the Three Little Pigs version, but they did a different version, a kid's version of that. And Amanda Samuels directed that with Kim Cook, and Marcia Noel helped out with that, and it was a great success. I went to see the performance. They have a huge after-school program at all these elementary schools. The kids are they're there, and then it sort of turns out to babysitting, if you will. and the parents are paying a lot of money for this and whatnot. So this is kind of a great way to like, well, you know what? Let's harness this energy and interest and put
Let's
put
do
a
something
show.
productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they kind of they won't. There's a proposal in the works to try that pilot something a little more formal, and then maybe get all the elementary schools involved. So that's something that's exciting. You know, I need to talk to administration and get their support and kind of lay the foundation. Our new assistant superintendent, Lisa Chen, I'm excited to have met with her. And she's actually a classical pianist.
Oh, wow.
She doesn't put that at the top of her resume, but she actually went to Oberlin and did some piano work there. And so she's come down and tried out a couple of our pianos and keyboards in the high school. So yeah, I know hopefully, you know, of course she'll be a supporter of the arts and music. And so, you know, these are conversations that I need to have and meetings and plans that need to be laid out for the future. Another thing that I'm excited about is the lab program here at the high school. Are you familiar with the lab program? And students come from different towns and they have special needs and there's special programs. Well, there's the idea of having an integrated theater program. So you have similar to like Special Olympics with athletics. There's such a thing as having a chorus or a performing group or a play, put on a play together, where we take lab students and Burlington High School students and integrate them together in the production. So they would help each other out and put on a really cool. So that's another idea that's in the works. And
That's got to be harder though, because you're working with 4 or 5 other communities to.
Well, the students from the lab program this is their home base. You know, the ones that come to Burlington High School, they're already here, so they're bused here. So then after school.
So it's not like all of lab. It's
right. It would be It would be a special program for Burlington High School lab. Yeah.
No, I get you.
Right.
Well, we are just about out of time.
Wow.
There's like 20 seconds left.
Flew by.
So thank you. Yeah, and now I'm like thinking, oh, I didn't ask about this, and oh, I didn't. So thank you so much. Really looking forward to Seussical the Musical Junior. And I want to thank you for coming, and thank you for everything that you do, because it's like music education is so important, and a lot of times it is that forgotten subject or like the elective. So thank you. I can't say enough thank yous. But
thank you.
I really appreciate it. And I also want to thank everyone at home for tuning in this evening. I hope you are as enthusiastic about developing young minds and bridging and branching out into the performing arts. And I look forward to seeing you around town. Good night.